Good afternoon, morning, evening, or whatever. My name is Sauce, and in this video, I will be answering a few questions about the Digma Raise keyboard. Like, what is it? Why does it exist? And why did I spend $319 on a pre-built keyboard? I'll show you the product, and you can find out for yourself. So what is the Digma Raise keyboard? Well, it's marketed as an ergonomic gaming and productivity keyboard that's portable. It has hot swappable mechanical key switches in a fully customizable 60% layout. Is it as good as the marketing suggests? I will go through everything point by point, starting with an overview of the product itself, followed by my experience with the product. So starting out, we have a hard case. It's honestly a pretty solid hard case, nice thick zipper. We have a carry handle and the Digma logo in the front. Opening it up, we have the keyboard itself right up front. You can see it's the white version of this with the Neuron that we'll get to a little bit later. It comes in one piece, and we flip it over to see the back side. It looks like an aluminum back, but it's not actually an aluminum back, it's an aluminum sticker. We have the ability to split it in half, as you can see here. So here's just a quick look at the thumb cluster. So moving on, we have the case itself. We have some extra keycaps and a bunch of different types of extra key switches in the box. So we have the Kale mechanical key switches, which include the copper, bronze, and silver, one of each. We have the Cherry MX, red, brown, and blue, as well as we have some extra low profile key switches. Here you can just see the actual switches. As this is a hot swappable board, you can switch out the key switches and you can replace them with whatever ones you like. RGB will pass through as long as you get a clear switch. So in the box, you also get O-rings, 70 O-rings. They're silicone to dampen the sound. I haven't used them yet. I don't care for them. That's a personal thing. You get 2 USB C-to-C cables. Both of these are 20 centimeters long. You get one 50 centimeter USB C-to-C cable. Not in the box currently is a USB A to C cable. It's 1.5 meters. I have that plugged into my computer. I was too lazy to put that back into the box. You have some stickers as well as the Neuron. This is the brain of the keyboard. Basically, when you create your layers in Basecore, they are all saved to this. So don't lose this. This is basically the memory of your keyboard. Comes with some stickers, as well as some microfiber cloths. A pair of them is what I got, but this is version 2, so I'm not sure what you guys will actually get in the box if you do decide to order it. You get a keycap puller as well as a switch puller, as both of these are necessary if you decide you want to switch the switches or the keycaps. It comes with an extra set of feet, and this is pretty important in my opinion, especially with version 2, as the feet are really small. I've had a few come off, you'll see that later. And it does come with a dust remover. I lost mine, I have no idea what I did with it, but it is definitely a thing. The Raise keyboard comes with 64 mechanical switches. The switch options are on screen and can be found on their website, with the link in the description. I'm uncultured and personally went with Cherry MX Red in mine. I'll be trying some tactile switches out in the future. Currently, you can also get 4 low-profile Kale switches for the thumb cluster, corresponding to the type of main switch you choose. Key switches are hot swappable, meaning you can swap the switches out however you so choose. As mentioned before, I'll be trying out some tactile switches soon, and let me know if you have any recommendations for tactile switches in the comments. Stabilizers are only used on the Shift, Backspace, and Enter keys. They use Cherry stabilizers. My left shift needed to be lubricated, but the rest of them are actually pretty good. As the spacebar is broken up into 4 keys, no stabilizer is required due to their size. Moving on to the keycaps. The keycaps are double-shot PBT keycaps with a few custom keys. They definitely do wear down over time, as with all PBT keycaps, and they're replaceable as needed. You can technically use any keycaps that fit mechanical key switches, although the thumb cluster keycaps are low profile and custom and would be more difficult to replace. You can order replacements for the entire set through the Digma website, although that'll set you back $70 for the black ANSI layout, which is the most common. The Raise is a 60% layout with no F keys, although they make up for this with layers. More on that later. It's available in an ANSI and ISO layout. The ISO layout has an L-shaped enter key and one extra key beside the left shift, mainly used in Europe. Surprisingly, there's no ortholinear option available yet, although they state that this is to help people transition to the keyboard easier. So moving on to the palm pads, they're covered by a PU leather and are silicone at the base. They're apparently removable and washable, but I have yet to do so. I stuck them on and nothing's really changed since. There is a little bit of damage on one of them. I don't know what caused that, but there's been no damage on the other one. They look pretty good after several months of use. They do have a little bit of squish. You can press into them just a little bit. It's a pretty unique material. I would personally prefer a bit more give in them, but they're comfortable enough to use. In terms of portability, the dimensions can be seen on screen now. It's not a very big keyboard. It comes with a hard case, it packs up easily, and as the Neuron is the brain of the keyboard, once it's programmed, you can basically uninstall the software if you want. Speaking of programming the keyboard, let's move on to the software and firmware. The software that lets you program the keyboard is called Basecore. It offers comprehensive options for customization through 10 fully programmable layers. It offers a suite of key options, programmable macros, and more RGB than I know what to do with. Learning to use Basecore, and more specifically, to program and customize the layers, is an absolute necessity in order to be able to use this keyboard. So by now, you may have realized that there's no F keys, no delete key, and no print screen, or anything else of the sort. In order to gain access to these keys, you will need, at a minimum, a second layer. I'll show you my layout to demonstrate. So layer 0 is the base layer. You can see in the top right of the screen up here. The layout of my keyboard is fairly standard, except for I tried to minimize the amount of wrist movement from the home row. I moved the backspace and delete to the bottom right side of the low profile keys. I did this in order to be able to reach them without having to strain my wrist. I've done the exact same thing with the left control key, where I've moved it right here. Generally, when you're clicking Control B, you have to strain your wrist a little bit. And delete and backspace. I've also turned the keys that I never use at the bottom right of the keyboard into arrow keys. In the left thumb cluster, I use the low profile keys to switch to layer 1 and then back to layer 0. One shifts the layer until it's been pressed again. The other one shifts until I release. This is useful for doing a quick button press, or if I want to stay on here and use certain keys and just keep the layer active. Layer 1 contains everything missing on layer 0. It contains F1 through F12 in place of the regular number keys. I've mapped other important buttons like tilde, which is the macro 0, home, and print screen. I've even mapped some keys for volume adjustment right here. As I work a lot in Microsoft Excel, the most useful part for me is on the right side where I've programmed a number pad. It gives me quick access to all of the necessary keys like asterisk, plus, minus, etc. I'm currently trying to map out using my mouse with the keyboard, and on layer 2 I've actually figured out how to do that. I'm not super confident with it yet, but I'm beginning to get used to it. I'll let you guys know what I think in the long term. Basecore also offers a vast array of RGB options, including for the underglow. So that's all the way around the outside. You have the option to import and export layers, which is great if you like the way someone else has done their setup and want to give it a try. Although I've never used it this way, I just use it for backing up my layers. What's also interesting is you can do each individual section of the underglow as whatever you like. So you can see on screen, I've actually made one small section of the right side purple. And you can see right here on the keyboard, I've made one small section of it purple. So you can do as much in terms of customization as you could possibly want. Adjustments to new layouts takes time. I find it easiest to do a few keys at a time. I'll turn off an old key and change it into switch between RGB color options. For example, backspace. That's exactly what I've done with that key. When I initially was trying to move backspace over to this location down here, I switched it to LED next so that I got visual feedback every time I tried to press the key. And I realized, oh, I made a mistake. I need to remember to press the other button. So a few last things to note. The keyboard is easy to learn and adjust to, but there's still a learning curve, and moving buttons takes a lot of time to get used to. It's still easy to learn, but there is still a learning curve, and moving buttons does take time to adjust to. As well, touch typing has made me more aware of my bad habits, like poke typing with my right hand, It's hard to get used to at first, especially for things like the number pad. Other people cannot use this keyboard once you finish programming it. My girlfriend tried to order us dinner and ended up making the keyboard turn rainbow and was typing numbers instead of letters. Layers are extremely difficult to implement efficiently. I only use 2 currently and don't take advantage of the thumb clusters for gaming. There's a few quality control issues out of the box, like the lack of factory lube for the stabilizers, but that can be pretty easily solved yourself. It's also very strange that there's a lack of tenting out of the box. Currently, I actually use cloths in order to supplement the tenting, and even then I can't get quite the angle that I'd like. I pre-ordered a tenting kit, but that cost an additional $79 US, and it's just a pre-order, so it won't be here until at least August. Even with tenting, there's still no way to adjust the wrist height, so even if I do tent it this way, there's no way to adjust the angle of those wrists. There's no ortholinear option for this keyboard as of yet. They state that this is to help people transition to the keyboard easier, as this is a very familiar layout for most people, but apparently one is coming. There's no indication of timeline. If you are interested in this style of keyboard, but you prefer the ortholinear layout, the Ergonomic Moonlander exists, and it's basically the same thing. Costs around $50 more, but has adjustable wrist rests and comes with tenting out of the box. And lastly, you absolutely need to back up your layers before installing firmware updates on the keyboard. I had all of my layers completely wiped out during the update and needed to completely reprogram my keyboard. So why did I buy the Digma Raise? It allows me to improve my chair posture substantially and eliminates hyperextension from my wrists. In my opinion, this level of customization is an absolute must for a 60% keyboard. Hot swappable switches will allow me to customize this keyboard long into the future, and it's an excellent option for space constraints. I work and game from the same desk with 2 computers. I only have the space on my desk for 1 keyboard to perform both functions. For gaming, I was getting frustrated by the size of keyboards with a number pad, but at the same time, at work, I didn't want to give up the number pad because I spend so much time working in Excel. The Digma Raise functions with only one side plugged in, or I can move the other side, so it can be used like a one-handed gaming keyboard, and layers can be used to provide me with that number pad. Another reason was I wanted quick and responsive customer service, and you definitely get that from the Digma staff. They are always taking feedback and questions on their subreddit, and customer support quickly respond by email. Dominique from Digma actually responded to my most recent request herself. Lastly, if I do ever return to the office, this keyboard will be able to remember the layout I gave it without needing it to download additional software onto that computer using the Neuron. This is critical as I'm not able to do so on my work computer for security reasons. Overall, I think this is an excellent keyboard for anybody looking for an ergonomic, hot swappable gaming keyboard. Sorry this video took so long to come out, and sorry that it's so long in general, but I really wanted to make sure I covered everything thoroughly. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Take care and have a great one. Cheers.